up here. I'm like, what? That is a movie. I went through this in real life, Jack. I'm not stressed out. You know what I mean? Ain't nobody gonna die up here. Except for the stuntmen, because they almost killed themselves. I tell you, I wish I could tell you about the movie, because that part was hilarious. Getting with the actors. The first time I ever met Wahlberg, I'll tell you the story real fast. Hot drive, we had them jokers 2.5 months, relatively before we started to train them. Well, I'm driving out there to the range. We're at the SWAT range in New Mexico. And my wife's riding with me, and we're kind of driving. I love my wife. I mean, like, it's highly, but I love that woman. And we're driving, and she's like, oh, Mark's gonna be out here, I get to meet him. I had a big crush on him at this poster where he's in his underwear. And I'm kind of like, yeah, what? So I get out of the truck. I gotta listen to this the whole way out there. I get out of the truck, man, I take my jacket off, walking up. I'm tattooed up. I don't know if y'all know that or not, but that's why I do this. But so, I was a big boy back then. I walk in, he's like, hey, Mark Wahlberg. I was like, Wahlberg, huh? I was like, I thought you'd be bigger. I was like, I had to listen, I kind of went down that road with him. He's like, my wife's been talking about you the whole way. He's like, yeah, I get that a lot. I was like, I bet you do. But, man, he cracks that grin at you, man. You just kind of like, you're a good dude, man. That was funny. But there was no CGI dummies, anything like that falling down that mountain. In the movie, that fall scene, the stuntmen did that and the actors. I mean, they were life flighting these guys out of there. They dropped their lungs, break their, just jack them up. And on the way out, they'd be like, I'll be back tomorrow. And I'd be like, take Dave, rub on that or something. You know what I mean? They were like, hey, I know what you went through in real life. If I kill myself filming this movie, it's an honorable thing. That's what they said. And if anybody in here knows stuntman, you think SEALs are crazy? Stuntmen are a different level. Because they're like legacies. You're like, my great-great-grandfather sat on by an elephant and died, and then got shot out of a cannon. That was great. And these guys would just just try to one-up each other. Oh, it was nuts. I wish I could tell y'all. It's hilarious. But yeah, in the film, they had it reversed. Not sure why they did that. In real life, the shepherds walked up on us, all right? First guy walked over the tree I was hiding under. I had no idea he was there. The way I found out is he jumped right over the top of me. Saw his his feet land right over the top of my gun. All I could see was from his calves up, and it got my attention, quick. I came out from underneath that log to engage. He turned around, looked. He had no idea I was there. Tell by the look on his face. And he had an axe in his hand. I flipped him down, took him over to where Danny was to interrogate him. Hand to God. Hand to God. I was trying to tell him I wasn't going to kill him. I was like, look, man, I ain't going to jack you up. But, most SEALs, we don't pay attention in language class. Because when you guys send us, talking's over, okay? Most of the stuff we learn is to scare them. My favorite phrase was, Allah sent me, and there ain't no way in hell you're getting out of this. So that's about all you got out of me. And about that time, 2 more guys came walking up the mountain. Another adult male and a kid, 12 to 14, which is a fighting age male. We sat them down and then ran through all the stuff that we had to run through, and that's when the goats came up the mountain. And you wouldn't think that'd be a big deal, but they saturated every side of it, and they just kept going. And the reason why that's a big deal is because those goats don't wait on the shepherds. They just keep going on the same trail they've been walking on thousands of years. They get back down the village, the shepherds aren't with them. Well, here they come strapped up, and then here we are. Ultimately, mission focus, mission priority. I was there for a reason. We were there for a reason. That's what I got to do. So we cut them loose. Gone in a shot. Let me tell you something. Even if I don't like you, if you're good at something, I'll tell everybody you're good at it. I'm like, I can't stand that dude, but he's great at that. And that's one thing, man, you can't take away from them. They're great mountaineers, and they're great gunfighters. They can get it on. Can't take it away from them. Well, we relocated into those trees in our initial spot. Triangle formation, out of the top. Axe, Mikey, and Danny was over there. I pulled my cat down to get some sleep. I was standing up, leaning against the mountain like this. I made a little shelf. I was standing, and I pulled my boots like that. Mikey's right underneath me. Well, I could hear Mikey signaling. And when I looked underneath my cap, he was looking past me, and his eyes were bigger than sand dollars, man. And then the smell hit me. I could smell him. And when I rolled over, first guy I saw had an RPG on each shoulder and an AK, and there's probably about 30, 40 guys right up there in the initial, and then a dozen or so coming down each side of the ridge. Right above me was a tree, big one. 30 feet from me, and I saw a guy, he had a black hood on, an AK muzzle, looked down at us. And I threw my weapon on fire, and before I could squeeze a round off, he pulled his head back around the tree again. And I looked at Mikey, I said, get back on the clock, we're fixing to get it on. That's exactly what I said to him. I turned back around, I waited. And you could see them setting up and talking to each other. I mean, they knew where we were. And then I just waited. Eventually that guy pulled his head around that tree again, and when he did, I shot him, and it unleashed hell on our left flank. I mean, I've been in a lot of gunfights. It's loud. They're right on top of us, man. First place I got shot was in my weapon. Luckily it hit me in the magazine and not actually in my weapon system. So when I was dropping and loading another mag, I looked at Mike, he's giving me the signal to fall back. Well, I used to keep my pack wrapped around my calf. And when I reached down to grab it, that shelf that I was standing in that I made crumbled and fell apart. I guess from me shifting my hips to get my shots off. And it felt like somebody opened a trap door underneath me. I just slid right out of it. And I think my foot grabbed a tree root, and it stopped me dead track. And then my chest came up over my hips, and after that happened, it was on. The fall, that was me. I started the whole thing. I started to flip, and I hit Mikey. I was upside down and backwards. My legs came over his shoulders, and I busted him right off of that. We pinballed through those trees, man. That was gnarly. We broke through the tree line. I remember flipping 3 times with my legs extended, and I puked. And we hit that grass was boulders and trees. We didn't know that. Grass had grown over the top of it. We had no idea. And I hit that and broke my back real bad, my pelvis. And Mikey, I'm pretty sure, landed on his face, because when he sat up, he was below me. And anyways, man, that's when they hit us with the RPGs and the mortars. And you can talk about your world blowing up, man. We didn't have any cover. And they pushed us into that channel. And we tried to get out of there. For over 3 hours, we tried to get out of there. That's how long it took to kill us. I try to put it into perspective. The movie's 2 hours long. Gunfight was over 3 hours. That explains it. And first person to die was Danny. He'd been shot multiple times. His femur was broke, compound fracture. Tib, man. I mean, lung was dropped. I was a medic. I was dragging him. I'd throw him off stuff. We'd post up, fight, and I'd drag him some more. Well, I picked him up over my shoulder to take a fall. There was a dead drop of about 200 feet, and there was this big rock embankment, and there was a way we could slide in between it. I was like, hey, man, I'm going to take the brunt of this fall. When we hit the ground, spread everything you can. Otherwise, we're going to die. And I picked him up, and I turned around to take the fall, and I spun him into a bullet, shot him in the back of the head, and killed him right then and there. And I wasn't ready for his dead weight. I flipped out from underneath him and face planted into this rock, smashed my nose through my face. I bit my tongue in half and swallowed it. And I was on all fours. I mean, I couldn't breathe. I was just incapacitated. Finally, I threw up. I could breathe. I got up. He was dead, man. I tried to drag him off to the side. We got separated. And the problem was, once you fell a certain distance, you couldn't get back up the way you came. It's too steep. We tried hundreds of times. Pulled my fingernails out trying. You know? So if a guy was up there in trouble, man, there was nothing we could do until he got down to us. And then the next person we had worked our way all the way down the mountain almost to the village. And I was on the left side of the mountain firing laterally at a group of guys. And I don't know how he got there, but Matt Axe walked out from behind this rock. I was firing. I almost shot him. He walked right past me, sat down Indian style, leaned against my right hip, had his hands in his face. And that ground was on fire. Most of the ground was on fire. And I was like, hey, man, what are you doing, man? You got to fight. You know, I'm kind of doing one of these. And he goes, hey, bro, I can't help you. I'm blind. He shot me in the face. And he lifted his head up. And the movie that hit him hit back here. Foster got, in real life, he was shot right there. And I'm not a doctor. You know, I'm a combat medic. I was like, man, I don't know how you lied, man. Because all this was, his jaw had been dislocated. I didn't hear about all that crap. But I was like, man, get out of here. I'll cover you. And I turned around to give him his cover, and that's when Murph had moved out on that boulder with our satellite phone. Took 2 rounds through the chest, flipped him like a animal. And I was trying to he's my best friend. I loved him. I never told him I loved him when he was alive, because guys don't do that, but it'll be the first thing I tell him when I see him. You know. I was right underneath him. I mean, closer for me to see him. I was waving my hands. I was out there. I slung my weapon. All I wanted him to do was come down to me. Get down here to me, brother. I can carry you out of here. I swear to God. And he didn't see me. He went left. He crawled left, and I could hear his weapon go off. And I could hear gunfire. And then he started screaming for help. He's like, I need help up here, man. I need help. I could not get up there. And I turned around. I had to reload my weapon. I was sitting on my boots, and I could hear him screaming my name. He's like, Marcus, man, I need some help. And I'll never forget. I used to never tell this story, but I'm an old man now, but I put my weapon down over my legs and covered my ears because I couldn't stand to hear him die. I broke. To break a Navy SEAL, you have to kill us. That's why they do the things they do to us to test us. But they snapped my cord, man. I couldn't take it. I don't know why. I heard plenty of people die. I don't know. I killed him. And I got shot out of that position, and I caught up with Axe. He was below me, a couple 100 meters. He crawled underneath this overhang. There's a couple logs leaning against him. I crawled in there with him. And I was looking at him face to face. I was like, we're going to die right now. And I made my peace with God a long time ago about dying. Billy taught me this. Take this away, too. We're all going to die in this room, man. Probably the safest bet you'll ever make. You can sidestep it, prolong it, do whatever it is you think you're going to do to get around it, but the Reaper's going to show up at the door. That's why you live every day like it's your last one, man. You don't have any idea when it's coming. And if you knew how short life was, man, you wouldn't waste 1 second doing anything that didn't bring you absolute enjoyment. I've seen life be snatched away in less than a second. I mean, that's what it did. Don't do that, man. He's like, you're going to die. Humans are funny this way. Being afraid is something that you can't control. What are you afraid about dying for? It's coming, man. I was never afraid of it. But it was a weird feeling when I knew I was about to die. I was like, hey, man, we're going to die, man, right now. And an RPG came in behind him and hit. He took the brunt of it, blew him right over the top of me, folded me over backwards. And when I sat him up, I was trying to push him up off of me. We were underneath this overhang in a gravel, in a stream. Forgot, I was wet. I was like, oh. I'd rather be shot than wet and cold. Never mind. Anyhow, I pushed him up off of me, and another one hit right behind him and separated us. Blew me one way, blew him another. I never saw him again for the rest of my life, ever. It knocked me out. That was the one thing they couldn't put in the movie, was how many times we got knocked out. Most of the time, any fighters in here, athletes, just a normal person, you can get knocked out once or twice in your life, right? Athletes a little bit more. I mean, I got knocked out 6 times in 3 hours. I was tucking my brain back into my face. When I came to that last time, I was almost naked, and I was paralyzed from the waist down. I had frag from the bottom of my feet, top of my head had been shot, and back was broke, pelvis, shoulder was torn out. I just rolled over. My med gear, maps, GPS, I had nothing but my rifle and 1 mag left with 11 rounds. That was it. I just crawled into this embankment, and I buried myself in a shallow grave. And I didn't move 1 inch for the rest of the day, because they were looking for me. They knew they were missing one. They were walking over top of me. And I used to never talk about this either, man. Well, there's a difference between having fear and being afraid. Everybody know that? One thing they teach us in the SEAL teams is how to harness fear. It'll make you stronger than you could ever imagine you could be. It'll make you do things that are impossible. But being afraid will make you nothing. And I was afraid. I was scared to death. They took my team away from me, man. I didn't know what to do. I was dying. I laid there all day. I started to psych myself out. I was like, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? I mean, I could feel my toes a little bit. And the last thing I said to myself was, I was a Navy SEAL. Quit being weak. Get up. And I uncovered myself, and I cleared my air. There's a guy sitting in the distance. He had a silver AK in his lap. The sun was hitting off. That's how I saw him. And I shot at him twice and missed him. And the third one, I shot him in the guts, and he fell. There's a hunter-killer team. And 2 more came running over, and they were facing the same direction. I had a suppressor. They had no idea where I was at. And I shot those 2 guys in the back, and that was it. Normally, you're not supposed to shoot people in the back, but I was having a bad day, so. The sun went down. That's the longest night of my life, man. I crawled. I just started crawling. I didn't. What else to do? I just started crawling. And I knocked myself out 4 more times through the night. I was so thirsty that it was driving me in. I've been to insanity. I know why we keep our people who are insane doped up. I was drinking my own urine, working up a sweat in my sock. I mean, I'd open up a clot in my leg, bleed it. I mean, nothing would quench the thirst, man. The sun came up. I was holding on to a tree. I was trying to work my way down this hill. It wasn't very far, like 35 feet. And I got shot in the back. And it hurt, man. Not that getting shot any other time didn't hurt, but I wasn't ready. You know, my guard was down. And it turned me into a gainer, and I rolled down that hill, knocked me out again. Well, they thought I was dead. And they were rolling around on the high ground. When I rolled over, they started freaking out. And then one guy was screaming at me and pointing at me right above me. He didn't have a weapon. And these 2 guys over here just started laying lead on me. Nothing worked from my chest down. I just rolled over and started pulling myself up the hill and would throw myself off the backside of it. That's the only way I was faster than they were. They wouldn't give up the high ground. And we played that cat and mouse game for about 3 hilltops. And I laid down, I turned around, dropped my weapon down, and waited. And that spotter, he was chasing me, hilltop for hilltop. And from me to the end of this stage,